I've been working for the last couple of weeks on this really lovely lake landscape. It takes almost all of the elements that we worked on in class. There's some beautiful brushwork with these cattails and the trees in the background. Strong horizontal lines, which is what most landscapes have, so that's something that we worked on. It's got both water and sky in a wet on wet technique, and of course all of the land is done wet on dry, so we've got that. We've got this beautiful brushwork. And then we have three different kinds of composition all used in the same thing. So I'm using the rule of thirds to place focal points here and there. I am using that S curve down the center in a more subtle way. And I'm also using framing, putting some of these big dark objects on the side to bring the focus in to the center of this painting. So I'm going to do several videos on how we put these elements together for this landscape. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to sketch a horizon line with a couple of hills, and then adding a taller hill that comes down and has a distinct base here. I'm going to shift that over to the side a little bit because I want it to be just a little smaller. And then the far shore of the lake, which is going to be just slightly curved, and the near shore of the lake. So these are elements that you can vary quite a bit as you do this, but this is based on a little expedition to Sheridan Lake that I did last year. I'm going to take my large brush and I'm going to put water where the sky goes, and I'm going to put water where the water goes. So those are the two sections that I'm using a wet on wet technique with. I'm going to give that a chance to soak in a little bit, and then I'm going to put another layer on. I'm just going to start with a blue across the top of my sky. It's pretty standard. I've got my bright blue here, and I'm going to make it fairly dark, and a little bit of a darker blue. So starting with the cobalt and then going with this phthalo blue. Below that, I want some yellow, the graduated colors of a sunset. So I'm going to put a nice bright yellow on there, and then I'm going to mix it up and down just a little bit. And then right near the horizon line is going to be a brighter red. I'm going to go with the warm red off of this particular palette. That one seems to be working really well for this project. And then again, I'm going to move that around. The other thing that you might want to do this is add some clouds. So I'm going to take a clean dry brush and just pull out pigment right here for now. And maybe some smaller ones further away. This gives me a chance to repeat and pick up some of the very intense colors. And another large one close up. And I'm going to repeat those same colors down in the water. I'm going to start with blue, and I'm just going to go over our entire water. If you do make an extra line the way I did there, it's always a good idea to go back and erase it so you don't get confused about which one is the one you actually want to use. So I'm starting with blue. I'm doing some nice big strokes. I missed some water there, so I'm getting a little dry brush. I'm going to add more water, make sure that everything moves right across there. And then I'm going to do some yellow. Dotting this here and there, keeping all of the lines fairly horizontal. One of the things that I've noticed with this particular lake at sunset, and I haven't looked at other ones closely enough to see, is that there's usually a bright line right along the far shore where that sun and the bright colors are getting reflected differently. So we're going to keep this fairly light for now. As I come around the corner, there's going to be a little bit more of a shadow coming from this little island or promontory as the land sticks out into the water. So I can put some darker color there. And I'm just going to let that flow back and forth for a little bit. Maybe a little more emphasis here and there. Woo. Putting that color down, seeing where it goes, and then adding the brush marks afterwards. This wet on wet is pretty forgiving, so you can put your color somewhere, see what happens with it, and then go back and manipulate it afterwards. So that is the beginning of this. I'm going to come back here and clean it up, and then we will do another video about the next step in this process.